Okay, so welcome back to the last part of the basic selectors CSS tutorial. In this tutorial, part of the tutorial, we're going to look at link selectors, link pseudo classes, and we're going to look at just general action pseudo classes that can be applied to links, but there are two that are specific to links. Okay, so first of all, you wonder what I'm talking about by pseudo classes. I tend to pronounce them like that, but other people might pronounce them differently. It basically looks like that, so pseudo class or pseudo class, however I put the P in there. Anyway, what is a pseudo class? Well, it's essentially something that is defined by a state or an action, or whether something's done something. So it's not really something we can define with a class itself. Like, for example, if I wanted to hover over, you think, well, you know, when I hover over, let's say, well, we'll give an example. By default, a link, if you haven't visited the page before, so for example, http://phpacademy.org/ non-existent, it doesn't exist. I've never visited it. When I go over to my browser and refresh, it's blue. Okay, it's blue by default. That's it. It doesn't exist. I haven't clicked it. Nothing's happened. I've not gone through to the page. Blah blah blah. So it's blue. When I do click it and then click back again, it's turned purple. Okay, so we've now got this purple link, and that is using the visited link pseudo class. Okay, so we've got a class in action, or a pseudo class in action that's saying, well, you visited this link, I'm going to style you differently. Okay, so we can override these. They're set by default by the browser. As you just saw, we've got that horrible blue color, then we've got that horrible purple color here. We've also got the active state as well. When I click, you can see it's gone red, so we've got another awful link color there. But this is by default, so like I said, we can override these, and we'll take a look at overriding these in just a moment. So with regards to links, there is a tutorial in this series on, link pseudo classes, which pretty much covers it. But I think it's important to go over it in terms of its actual being a class. Okay, so let's just say we want to add a hover state to this link. I'm not going to change anything else. I'm not going to go into it. There's another tutorial. But I'm going to say I want all links to be underlined, okay, which they are by default, so I don't need to change anything. But what I want is when I hover over a link, so any link on my page, when I hover over it, I want the underline to disappear, just to give a bit of interaction with the user and the links on the page. So at the moment, when I hover over it, nothing's happening, but I want the link to then disappear. So I use a, and then I use a colon, and then the pseudo class name. So in this case, it's hover. If I wanted to say visited, for example, then that's fine. I can use visited, but I'm going to just use hover. So when I hover over this element, I apply any styles to that element in here, and it doesn't just apply to anchor elements. It can apply to divs, anything, paragraphs, whatever. Okay, so we'll test that out in just a moment, just so we can see it in action. So I want to go ahead and say text decoration, which is essentially a way of saying, do I want to underline, strike through, or anything like that? I'm going to say none. So when I refresh and I hover over it, you can see that now the text decoration is set to none, which essentially just gets rid of the underline. So we've now used a pseudo class to style an A on a specific event, so a hover, for example. And again, we could override the visited color, and we could say we wanted to have say the color slightly different. We might want it green if we visited it. I have to spell visited right beforehand. So now when I refresh, you see that this has gone green because I visited it, whereas if I change it to something that I have already visited, I haven't visited, it's that default blue color. Okay, so this is essentially how we do this. There are some ordering rules, by the way, with anchor elements. Make sure you check out the link tutorial, and that will give you better insight on that. Okay, so we've also got things like, well, again, I'm going to show you, I'm going to apply it to another element. We don't want to keep doing it to anchors because it's boring. So I'm going to say a paragraph. There we are. So what I want to do is I want to target all paragraphs. Probably not a good idea, but when I want to, well, when we hover over a paragraph, I want the font size to increase, and I want to set that to 120%. So now any paragraphs that I hover over, the text enlarges. Okay, so we've got this sort of, you know, ability to apply more interaction to our page, or give more interaction with our users in our page. Okay, so we've looked at hover. Let's look at some of the others that aren't specific to links. Remember, we've got link and visited that are specific to links. Link just means, you know, a link at its default state. Visited means when a link's been visited. We can apply active, which is when we clicked and it turned that horrible red color. And we also had hover. We've just applied hover to paragraph, but we can also have focus as well, which is one that's sort of underused, I guess. We tend to have a lot of JavaScript that that deals with this. It hasn't worked on the paragraph tag. I totally did that on purpose. But what it does work on is things like input fields. Okay, so when an element has focus, i.e. there's sort of some kind of direct input or action to do with something. So I'm going to say input type equals text. Let's go ahead and check that out in the browser. It's just a text area. You can see at the moment it's got this sort of orange border around it. That's my default sort of Chrome state. What I want to happen is the background color to change. So I'm going to change the background color of any input type with the type of text to a slight grey color when we have it in focus, i.e. we're ready to type something. So I'm going to again use an attribute selector. I'm going to say input type equals text, and I'm going to style this. But first of all, we need the focus, not active. The focused pseudo class, and I want to go ahead and set the background of this to we'll say EE. Okay, so like a grey color. Okay, so now when I refresh, when I click in there, I don't think it's very noticeable. Hold on, let's go A. There we go. That's a lot more noticeable. Before it, you know, didn't look very good. Looked like it hadn't worked. Anyway, so when I click in here now, that's active. Okay, it's ready. You know, I'm ready to type something in there. The background color has changed. When I come away, it'll automatically revert back to its original state. So that's pseudo classes. A quick look at them. And how we can target, you know, specific elements, different elements, based on, you know, sort of user interaction, their state at the time, without having to, you know, use something external like JavaScript. Okay, so that's the look at pseudo classes. We've covered quite a lot. We've covered the basics, and this should be enough to let you sort of play around and test out targeting different elements, and selecting different things, styling different things based on certain things. Get to grip with classes, IDs, when you should use things. Try and keep all of your styles in your style sheet, and all of your markup, only the markup, in your main document. Okay, so that's the end of the selectors part of the series, and we've covered just about everything. Well, at least everything that you need to know to basically style up a page.